This podcast is part of the Gun Rights Radio Network. Podcasting freedom.
Hey, Walt here from WaltInPA.com with a Shooting the Breeze podcast update. This really isn't a podcast episode. It's just a bit of an update as to what's going on and what's going to be happening in the future. I do plan on reviving the podcast. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus as of late. I've been keeping busy shooting over the winter, and now that the warm weather has rolled in, my honey-do list has grown exponentially. It seems as though if I'm not at the range shooting, I'm at home doing something around the house for my wife. And that's left not a whole lot of room for the podcast. I mean, there has been room. I've been getting things accomplished, but I haven't really been pushing out episodes, getting things recorded and published. And that's going to change in the very near future. I'm going to gear up the podcast again. However, this time around, I want to make some changes. I found that I'm having difficulty running the show as a one-man operation every week. It's become too much work, and then once I start falling a little behind, I get discouraged, and I don't want to, put out a half a show, so I fall further behind, and next thing I know, it's been 3 weeks, and a show hasn't been published. So in an effort to alleviate that problem, going forward, I think I'm going to change to a bi-weekly schedule, and what this will allow me to do is put together an episode when I'm not shooting. So right now, I shoot 3 matches a month. I shoot USPSA the first Saturday of the month. I'm off the second weekend of the month. I shoot USPSA on the third Saturday of the month and IDPA on the third Sunday of the month, which leaves the fourth weekend free. So the plan going forward is to record something on the second and fourth weekend of the month and then push them out either early that week or the next week while I'm shooting. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about doing it yet, but doing this will allow me to ease up on gathering all the information for news and featured content, because some weeks were just really difficult. I would find a dozen news topics and virtually nothing that I wanted to talk about for featured content, or it was the other way around where I had all of this cool stuff to talk about but hardly any news at all. And because I'm kind of anal about what I want to put in the show, I didn't want it to be unbalanced, so there was a bit of difficulty there. Another change that I want to make is I want to incorporate more competitive shooting, since I do quite a bit of it, and I think what I'll do is have one show be general firearms related, discussing current events, featured content, things like that. The old podcast, everything that I used to do, and then the second podcast in that month being more competitive shooting based, where ideally what I would like to do is go to a match and find a competitor to sort of host the entire episode, more or less, where we can talk before the match, we can walk through each stage, talk about their stage plan, then we'll film them shooting the stages, maybe do a recap of each stage as we go forward, maybe a match recap, things like that, so that you can see everything that goes along with a match. Since I shoot USPSA and IDPA, that gives me options, and I'm certainly open to shooting the odd steel match, since there are a fair amount of them in the area. And I think that will mix things up. It will also ease the burden in me finding new content for news and featured content, and it will let the second show of the month be a bit more organic, since I'm already at the range shooting. It's just grab the camera, a couple more times throughout the match to record someone else as well as myself. There are a number of shooters that I think I can talk into giving me a hand with that. Matt Olenchek is a Masterclass USPSA shooter. I think he's also a Masterclass ESP IDPA shooter. So limited division USPSA. I'm not quite sure where he's ranked for production division, but Matt Olenchek is one from supertactical.com. I could probably talk Steve Lockwood into doing something with me as well. He is from Standard Deviation Arms, and I'm not quite sure what divisions he's shooting these days. I think the last time I shot with him, he was shooting open. But that just shows that there's also some diversity there as well. We can talk to limited division shooters, production shooters, open shooters, and mix in classes as well, so that you're not always getting a master shooter's input. It will sort of expand the discussion to see how a D-class shooter walks through the stage. It may not be as exciting, but I find that sort of thing interesting. I want to see how they're breaking down the stage versus, a B-class shooter or an A-class shooter. And, there are a number of different people that I think I could talk into doing something like that with me. So that's the plan going forward. Switch to a bi-weekly format and do one general firearms show a month and one competitive shooting-based episode a month. It is getting away from the general firearms format that I enjoyed so much in the beginning, and I think it may. I don't know that it'll really alienate some of the listeners and viewers, but I think it'll add a little bit of diversity to the show, where I'm not solely dedicated to general firearms or solely dedicated to competitive shooting. It sort of allows me to mingle in between the two genres and just have fun doing it. And also ease the burden on getting all this stuff together for me. I'm still in the process of looking for someone to lend me a hand. I like the idea of possibly doing sort of rotating co-hosts where I'll get someone to come on and just talk for an entire episode with me. It's easy enough to do with the setup that I have, as long as someone has a Skype account and a half decent webcam and microphone. It's just easy to make it work. I record everything on my end. I do all the editing. Someone just has to show up and not be camera shy. But that's the agenda moving forward. Hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks with a brand new show and lots of new content.
You can hear Gun Rights Radio Network on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones, on demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio. Gun Rights Radio Network shows can be found under Sources.